Hello everyone. My name is Kelly Johnson and I'm the creator of the Writers for Hope online auction. It's an annual event where writers and readers can come together and bid on work critiques, signed books, posters, and CDs, and other book-related accessories and experiences, with all the proceeds being donated directly to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, or RAINN. And though I cannot quite believe it, this year is our 5th anniversary auction. It truly boggles my mind, because I can remember like it was 5 minutes ago, the fear that I felt the first time that I sent an email out to an author asking them to participate in this event. Well, fear, nausea, and the feeling that it was something that I absolutely had to do. You see, when I sent out that first email, I had just passed the 4-year mark of my being attacked. 4 years prior to my hitting send, as I was leaving for work early one morning, a stranger forced his way into my home and proceeded to beat, smother, strangle, and rape me. Thanks to the fast actions of my best friend and life-saving hero, the police arrived before he could complete his attempted murder and escape. From that point on, he was never out of police custody. And 7 months later, I got to stand in a courtroom with my friends, family, and strangers and listen to him call what he did to me an unfortunate incident. A slightly more benign description than I gave when I spoke after him. But then I got what so few survivors ever do. Justice. He was sentenced to 24 years in prison, and I was finally able to completely start focusing on rebuilding my life. In the 2nd year, I started to see real progress. I was sleeping alone again. I'd even spent a couple nights completely by myself in the apartment. It was small victories that seemed so unbelievably huge. But none of them compared to year 3, when I started planning a solo international trip, something I would not have thought myself capable of mere months earlier. But the success that I felt at moving past focusing solely on survival was tempered by my continuous searching of news outlets for stories about rape. I couldn't stop. Or perhaps more accurately, I wouldn't stop. I don't know if it would be called survivor's guilt, but it was a pretty close relative. I knew that I had so much more support than the vast majority of people in my situation. I had so many people to turn to when I needed bolstering, and there were so many others who had no one. I might not be able to do anything to change that for them, but if they could live through these horrors, the very least I could do was make sure I read about them. So I searched them out, and with every article I read, I started undoing the progress that I had made. I learned very quickly how to cry silently in the bathroom at work. I started rethinking my decision to join a local community theater. I didn't know any of these people. Any one of them could have been a predator. There were so many predators and there was so much suffering. How was I going to function in a world that had this much suffering? I was spiraling, and I probably would have continued to do so until I was completely unraveled if my mother hadn't stepped in. She stopped my spin into darkness with one question. How is what you are doing actually helping any of these people? It wasn't. It was a nice thought. Make sure their stories are read. But they were still out there suffering alone, and the people who were doing these things to them were still getting away with a slap on the wrist, if that. And I was working myself into such a state that I wasn't good to anybody. The terrible knowledge that I had more support and had received more justice than most people wasn't going away. But I had to find a new way of dealing with it. I went back for my 3rd stint in therapy and started to get my head on straight. I started spending less time crying in bathrooms and more time circling back to my mother's question, trying to figure out how I could do anything to help. I joined the RAINN Speakers Bureau and started attending some of their events, and I was so inspired by the work that they did to help people who were in any way impacted by sexual abuse or assault. I decided to combine my interests and came up with the idea for the Writers for Hope auction. And then in March of 2014, I was finally ready to attempt the daunting task of approaching strangers and asking them to be part of this cause. So I drafted an email to send to authors, editors, and agents. And then the terror set in. Every single time I hit send. Terror. These people didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and I was asking them to dedicate their time and resources to a wholly untested idea. And then I started getting responses. And not only were people immediately offering their time and resources, but they were thanking me for the opportunity. To this day, this blows my mind. They were thanking me for giving them an avenue of which they could give of themselves. And now this April, we will be going 5 years strong. Every year the donor list grows, and I think I've met in person maybe 4 of last year's 107 donors. The others are still virtually strangers to me. Past the occasional email about the auction or Twitter conversation about TV shows that we really feel should have lasted longer. I don't know if they have any idea the monumental role they have played in reminding me why this world is worth fighting for. Now, has any of this significantly decreased the amount of suffering in the world? No. Are there still a truly alarming number of predators? Yes. I don't even have to go looking for the stories anymore. They are front and center every time I turn on the TV or read an article. Nothing I've tried has changed the world, but it has reminded me that I am not alone in my concern for it. And now I think of it a lot like being in the high school choir. I had a music teacher who used to really hammer home the idea of staggered breathing before a concert. You make sure that you are not taking a breath at the same time as the person standing next to you. That way, the sound of music is continuous. It's been almost 8 years now since the attack, and there are still days where I just need to take a breath. I need to step back and turn inward. That need has increased significantly in the last year, as I've been torn between being elated that necessary conversations are finally becoming more mainstream, and emotionally exhausted by having my knowledge that these issues are rampant confirmed on an almost hourly basis. But as difficult as these moments are, they no longer mire me in despair, because I know the people around me are still singing. Just as I know that on the days where I'm going strong, there are others who aren't. Now I've accepted that I can't necessarily make it better for them, but I sure as hell can keep singing when they don't have the breath to. And I'd like to invite all of you to amplify this particular song this year. We're going to be having a donor and auction item reveal on Monday, March 12th. The actual auction will run from April 2nd through April 6th, with 100% of the proceeds being donated directly to RAINN. If you'd like updates, please visit writersforhope.com or join us in the conversation on Twitter with #WritersForHope. And if you're interested in finding out more about the amazing work that RAINN does, please visit them on their website, which is www.rainn.org. And finally, thank you. Thank you to everyone who has taught me that hope is more motivating than despair. And thank you to everyone who will confirm that belief for me in the future. Thank you.